France making a welcome return to the inner circle of the North Atlantic Alliance, and both Senators McCain and Obama recognising a strong EU defence capability is a help, not a hindrance, to NATO. Britain doesn't have to choose between being a good European and a true friend of America. Now they go together. And after the crisis in South Ossetia this summer, the need for closer European defence cooperation could not be clearer. Second, we must reform the scandalously lax accountability of the British government for what it agrees to behind closed doors. A concern expressed by pro-Europeans, who nevertheless voted no in Ireland, is the seepage of power from the people to the centre. And this has been made worse by the loss of accountability. It suits Gordon Brown and some other prime ministers and officials to ensure that the things they carve up behind closed doors don't see the light of day. But for the healthy, democratic European Union we believe in, we need not just a minister for Europe, but a cabinet minister for Europe. And we need a regular, dedicated Commons question time for European issues too, not just a few reluctant minutes squeezed into Foreign Office questions. And as a third reform, we need more openness and transparency in how Europe spends our taxes, especially on how individual member governments spend EU money on bigger items like the common agricultural policy. So let's pay tribute to Chris Davis, our MEP on the European Parliament's Budget Control Committee, for the fearless way he's shone a light into the dark corners of financial irregularity. Chris Davis, you say you don't like the motion's overall tune, but we like your song, and it should be part of next year's election campaign. For it is these failures of democracy, accountability and honesty, not the necessary technicalities of a treaty, that goad some pro-Europeans to vote no. The Lisbon Treaty itself is packed with necessary reforms. For example, its vital provisions to tackle cross-border crime. In a global society, crime is international. Yet Conservative MPs voted in Westminster against closer European cooperation, against human trafficking, drug barons and paedophiles. Imagine putting their anti-European ideology against protecting the victims of crimes by some of the world's worst criminals. That's how extreme and hopeless the modern Conservative Party is on Europe. Europe deserves better of its leaders, and as the party of Europe, it is our duty to speak out till Europe improves. Now, Liz Lynn made the case for legalising the employment position of Bulgarians and Romanians, and we agree. With British people working, holidaying and buying properties in Bulgaria and in Romania, I quite worry that we aren't welcoming Bulgarians and Romanians, and she was quite right to move that amendment. Indeed, she also made the case for all EU citizens benefiting from strong anti-discrimination laws. And we heard from Jill Allen King and how those are so important and how EU anti-discrimination laws are needed to protect people's rights in this country. And so we willingly accept Liz's amendments. And Evan, we agree with you rather than Mohammed. We desperately hope in our support for your amendment, you secure the victory you've so waited for. You richly deserve it, Evan, if not for your jokes. Now, some speakers touched on the question of Britain's membership of the single currency, particularly Graham Bishop. Let me be crystal clear. Liberal Democrats continue to support Britain's membership. Of course, as we've done for some time, we recognise that we couldn't join the euro overnight, that we need to win a referendum first, and that in the practical world, that is some time off. Yet as time goes on, as the pound falls through the floor, and as the costs of staying out grow, we will not be the only ones arguing the case for the single currency. And it was Charles Kennedy who reminded us that we should not trim our principles on Europe. Charles has been one of the greatest advocates of the European Union in modern British political times, and we should follow his lead on Europe. Andrew Duff, our resident federal beast, rightly made the case for the Lisbon Treaty. Having spent months on the floor of the House of Commons arguing that case too, often when government ministers weren't prepared to argue it, I obviously agree. And some of you may remember that I felt strongly about this personally, especially over the referendum question, and especially when the other parties conspired to prevent the House of Commons even debating the issue of an in-out referendum. Well, I didn't just catch the Deputy Speaker's eye, I got his boot as well. Well, next year, in the elections, we want to give the boot to many Labour, Tory and UKIP MEPs. And above all, on Europe, we want to blow away the smoke of ambiguity behind which David Cameron and the Conservative Party cower. Are they for the EU or not? Do they want in or out? Yes or no? We should force them to make up their minds. They're like the girl in the song. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She didn't say stay. She didn't say go. But that's not good enough. Detention, Cameron Minor, and no Bullingdon for you. Conference, I wear two hats for the party in today's debate. Chair of the Campaigns and Communications Committee and Shadow Foreign Secretary. So to Philip Goldenberg, David Walter and others who mentioned this, let me give you some good news. We have already decided that when we fight the European elections next year, we will fight it on our European policies, starting with our great environmental record in Brussels and with our great EU environmental policies. In conclusion, let Gordon Brown be the hermit of Lisbon. Let David Cameron appease his loony right. This debate has shown that the European vision lives on and thrives among Liberal Democrats. We have the confidence to stand up unambiguously for Europe, the confidence to propose reforms where they are needed,